What's going on, guys? This is Blood Phantom 81. Today I'm going to be talking about Bitcoin and whether I see it bottoming soon or whether I'm long Bitcoin. So, disclaimer number one, we've heard it over and over again. You should not invest what you're willing to lose in general with the stock market. With Bitcoin, that rule is tenfold. You should be able to kiss the money you're investing goodbye, and you should be okay with that. So that's just the first disclaimer. Do not bet the house, no matter how good the risk to reward setup is here. It's just not a good idea. With that being said, if you have some money that you've put aside that you're willing to risk and you're willing to gamble with, because let's be real, it's more like gambling rather than investing when it comes to Bitcoin, then this video is probably for you. And me, myself, I don't consider myself a gambler. I don't really like Vegas. But if there's some kind of methodology to this gambling, I'm all for it. And if there's some kind of probabilities that I can assess, then I'm all for it. So full disclaimer, I am long Bitcoin and I will continue to add. I'll talk more about it in this video. But first, let's do a quick recap. So my video about Bitcoin, I think it was maybe 4 months ago or 5 months ago. That was the last time I talked about Bitcoin. And what I said was, in order for Bitcoin to bottom, there would have to be a period of heavy selling or capitulation before there could be a sharp reversal, because we were stuck in this triangle. We clearly resolved to the downside, which is what I said in that video. And now we're approaching some very long-term targets. So all in all, clearly it crapped the bed over the last 2 weeks. I don't have to keep repeating it. This is pretty much what it looks like from a weekly perspective. So last week was clearly the worst, where we lost maybe, let me get rid of myself. Last week was clearly the worst. We went from around 5,700 all the way down to 3,900. And it doesn't look like we're bottoming just yet, so we could head a little bit lower. And all in all, I feel like if we are going to reverse, then the bottom is either pretty close to where we're at or not too much further. So just to be clear, this pattern that we were in is also known as a descending triangle. What it means is that sellers or people that are shorting are becoming more aggressive because we're clearly in some kind of range, and we have some kind of horizontal support level. But the places at which we get rejected at are getting lower and lower. So sellers and people shorting Bitcoin were becoming very aggressive with where it was. And then once we broke below this 89 MA, which is this magenta line, we clearly just plummeted. Let's go ahead and take a look at a daily time frame. So what I want to highlight here, and by the way, this is a descending triangle. You guys can also look this up. So basically, selling pressure is getting stronger with a horizontal level of support. That's exactly what we got with Bitcoin. Yeah. Anyway, moving on. So what we're seeing now is a period of spiking volume. So clearly the trend, this is a moving average for the volume. It's clearly trending upwards. And even on days which don't have that much movement, like for example, November 20th, where we didn't move all that much, we had a huge spike in volume. The last 3 days, we've also had some pretty large spikes in volume, despite there not being that much movement altogether. And so what that means is there's a lot of buying and selling going on. One might be able to assess this as something called either distribution or capitulation. So I have an article pulled up here, which is Investopedia, talking about capitulation. Basically, capitulation is when investors give up any previous gains in any security or market by selling their positions during periods of declines. So a period of heavy selling. Capitulation can happen at any time, but typically happens during high volume trading and extended declines for securities. A market correction or bear market often leads investors to capitulate or panic sell. So Bitcoin is clearly in a market correction or bear market. All right. Let's see if there's anything else. I could definitely link this in the description below. We could also take a look at this paragraph right here. So capitulations often signal major turning points in the price action of underlying securities and financial instruments. Technical analysts can visually identify capitulation using candlestick charts. So hammer candles, I don't really like the idea of hammer candles forming. I don't think that's very necessary. Traders who wanted to sell their positions have done so as panic reached a climax. So a period of extreme fear. As fear starts to subside, greed may set in and reverse prices. So a period of panic selling. So that's pretty similar to what I think is happening here. Clearly a large spike in volume. Clearly a lot of exchanges going on. Yeah, so let's take a look at this magenta moving average for a second. This is something else I want to take a look at. So pretty much anytime this magenta line is sloping upwards, we're in an uptrend. And every time it's sloping downwards, we're in a downtrend. So this is the daily daily time frame, excuse me. Clearly in a downtrend ever since March. We've been going nothing but lower. And then on the weekly time frame, the panic really didn't set in until we broke this magenta moving average. So this is somewhat of a midterm moving average. But what I want to take a look at, and the period that I'm really watching out for, is the 200-week moving average. So the reason why I care about this so much, I feel like it's lagging, but anyway, so clearly investing.com doesn't want to work with me, but this moving average extended all the way back to maybe to 2015 when it was working before. And pretty much Bitcoin had never gone below it in an uptrend. And that's exactly where I think we're going to bottom. So I do think we're getting close to that period right here. So if I could describe a trade that I would place, it's basically this. So I am long Bitcoin, first of all, full disclaimer, and I will probably continue to buy as long as we remain above maybe 2,800. But this is the trade for those that aren't in Bitcoin at all. And, don't do this just because I said so, but this is basically the idea that I have. It would be if we have two, let me be able to emphasize myself. If we have two kind of tranches, or let's say we wanted to put $1,000 into Bitcoin, I would divide that into two. I would put the first half right now around 3,700. I would put the second half closer as we get to this moving average around maybe 3,200 with the stop around 2,700. I would not place the stop around 3,000 or around maybe 2,900 because I think it's very likely that Bitcoin can overshoot any kind of support or any kind of place of psychological support where a lot of people will place their stops. That's a common trick for a lot of financial institutions. They have to worry about things like liquidity. So if they were going to place an order, they would want to shake out a lot of people so that they can control the market and they can buy more shares and basically take advantage of all the stops that are being taken out. Because they obviously have a bid and it only gets fulfilled if a lot of people are selling. So around 3,000 is where I think a lot of people will place their stop. So I don't think that's an ideal place to place your stop. I would say maybe something like 2,700. So let's talk about the risk to reward setup here. So clearly, I do think if this is some kind of bottom, I think we can get to 20K pretty quickly. So at the very minimum, if we get back to 20K from here, that's a 400% gain. Let's talk about the trade that I just mentioned and the setup here, the potential to lose here. So like I said, we would place the first half at 3,700. So 3,700 with the stop at 2,700. Actually, 3,700. So that's I don't have to do the math. That's 1,000. So 1,000 divided by 3,700 is around 27%. But because we're placing the second order at around 3,200, this should be less than 27%. So maybe like 22% or something. Basically, risking 22% to get 400%. That's an ideal risk to reward setup here. And that's a trade that I would recommend for anyone that's willing to gamble. Me, myself, I will continue to buy with a stop at 2,700. Just the gambler in me, I suppose. But yeah. So that's basically my take on Bitcoin. Please let me know if you guys are interested in actually buying Bitcoin, or if you guys are interested in more of these Bitcoin videos, I think over the next couple of weeks, it'll probably get really interesting. And I don't mind talking about Bitcoin. I think it's actually kind of fun. Anyway, that's it for this one. I hope you had got. Anyway, that's it for this one. I hope you guys have a great day and good luck trading. Stay safe out there.